So everybody, greetings from Spain. I'm in the beautiful Motril right now, and I wanted to take you on my journey through Spain in your mouth. The night came and it swept me away, and I woke in a distant place. So for the last month, my wife and I have been traveling all around southern Spain. We started in Madrid and kind of went to Cordova, Granada, Sevilla, Malaga, and now we're in Motril, just kind of chilling out, doing some work, just staying by the beach. And we came here because we wanted to get inspired and study a new culture that we didn't know much about. So we wanted to learn about the food, the music, and just what makes this place so magically special. I feel like Spanish food is some of the most underrated food in the entire world, and I want to share some of my favorite recipes and dishes that I've experienced over the last month. Now I will say this. I understand that when it comes to Spain, some of the chefs and restaurants are the most decorated and like inspiring creative chefs in the world, but I think Spanish food in the whole is not super well known on the internet, not really well represented, because it's not necessarily like viral. And the food is so good and so fresh and so delicious, but it doesn't have that like Instagram food porn stuff. And I don't think it's fair that you don't necessarily know about Spanish food just because of that. So this video is going to be dedicated to now what has become one of my favorite cuisines in the entire history of ever. So whether you can come to Spain or not, I want to take you guys on a journey through your mouths and through your eyes to get to know this cuisine that I think is one of the most underrated and most amazing cuisines in the entire world. Now, to understand Spanish food, you have to understand a bit of how their culture works. In America, typically we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast is big, lunch is big, dinner is usually pretty big, and there's snacks throughout the day. In Spain, they take their food very seriously, and they have a very different way of eating than we do in America. So first off, food is extremely fresh. And when I mean fresh, like people tend to go to the markets almost every single day, and there are markets everywhere. And we're talking about markets from like small convenience stores that sell good quality produce to these gigantic markets that I became obsessed with. In the morning, there's produce and fruit and fish and meats and stuff to cook. And then during the day and at night, they open up these amazing food stalls and you can just try all kinds of things and have a great time. So breakfast in Spain is probably the most simple meal of the day. It's usually just some like bread, or as they call it, toast, maybe a little bit of a jam or a spread and some coffee. So I was feeling really inspired by something I had when I was out at night that kind of was like a breakfast, just a little bit amplified. So while a lot of my breakfasts were like scrambled eggs and jamon, which is like the biggest thing in Spain, and fresh bread, I was eating a lot of bread. One of my favorite breakfasts being in Spain became this really simple dish that you can easily make at home. So a huge dish in Spain are toast. And toast is pretty much any kind of bread topped with anything from as simple as like jam to crazy different fishes and olives and things like that. And one of my favorite ones is this toast with sardines on it. So before I came to Spain, when I thought of canned food, I typically thought of it as just like cheap food, you know, think of like canned tuna and stuff, but the canned stuff in Spain is often better even than the fresh stuff. Just the way they process it, really good olive oil, it's so delicious, so much umami. So I'm gonna make this really simple toast with just olive oil, garlic, tomato, bread, and sardines. And you can use whatever you want. You don't need the sardines, you could even use meat or something, but it's so good. Might seem a little bit odd, but I'm actually gonna just grate some tomato. Fresh tomato. You get a good product, you don't need to do much to it. So into that tomato mixture, I'm also gonna grate some garlic. Just about 1 clove of garlic, depending on how much garlic you like. You know, it's all very adjustable. Healthy pinch of the salsa, a little fresh olive oil in there. Just kind of mix that around. So now we take our pan, otherwise known as bread in Spain. Well, that didn't go as planned. Whoops. I probably should use a bread knife, but we do not have one at the Airbnb, so it kind of got a little bit weird, but it's all good, no big deal. Olive oil everywhere, so a little olive oil goes in the bread first. Then just lay some of this little kind of tomato sauce, fresh tomato sauce down. And then we get our sardines. And one thing you want to be careful about if you do use sardines is that they have a bone in the middle. So what they'll usually do is they'll kind of split them and just pop a couple slices right on there. Just like that, you get your fresh toast. So good. And the garlic and the tomato just kind of hit you. So in Spain, lunch is the biggest meal of the day. And while it can get costly, most places have a fixed menu. And lunch doesn't start till 2 o'clock. So here's the thing. People wake up in the morning, they eat their breakfast, and then around 1:30, 2 o'clock, the whole city pretty much shuts down and everyone goes to lunch from 2 to 5. And from 2 to 5 you have lunch, and then you have a siesta and a rest after, and then you go back to work. So lunch is the biggest meal of the day because you get to rest and kind of recharge, usually a sit-down meal. So for around 10 euro, you can actually go to a restaurant and get a fixed menu, and they're usually pretty big. Like one day I had this really awesome fixed menu. It was bread, they gave me some olives, they gave me this little Spanish tortilla, just like a little sampling of that. For the first course, I had a paella with like mixed seafood and some meat and stuff, and then I had this fried fish with French fries and vegetables, and then I had a dessert of ice cream, and it was like, that was lunch. So one of the most popular dishes in all of Spain is the Spanish tortilla, and it's really simple to make, and it was invented hundreds of years ago just because it's cheap and it feeds lots of people. Potatoes, some eggs, and you can use some onion and olive oil. You basically fry up your potatoes, mix them into an egg batter, make this gigantic, almost like gigantic omelet tortilla, but it's so delicious. And I might even throw in some jamon, why not? First thing I want to do is almost like, I don't want to fully deep fry, but I want to add a good amount of oil and fry my onions and potatoes until they're nice and tender. So I ended up putting just a lid. I mean, I didn't really have a lid, but I used another pan. Just kind of pop that on here, just to steam that a little bit, cook it a little faster. And I scrambled up about 6 eggs, with a little bit of salt. All I want to do now, and this is optional, but I have my jamon, and you can of course use like little bits of ham or bacon, whatever you got. Just mix that in together, and then once the potatoes are cooked, let them cool, mix it all together, and then fry up this gigantic tortilla. Now the potatoes are all cooked, steamed down, they're nice and creamy. Mine got maybe a little more brown than you would maybe see in some places, but the key thing here is they taste delicious and they're nice and creamy and cooked. Potatoes. Make sure you salt them too. So I've got my potatoes cooled down, my egg mixture here. Mix that around together. And then put some olive oil in the pan, get a good amount, and just drop this in. And at this point, you just want to let it cook kind of on medium low. You can always add a little top to it. Yeah. Let's check this thing out. Cool, so at this point, I'll zoom in. As you'll see, the top is still not fully cooked, but around here, it's all nice and tortillaed out. So this is the part that takes just a little bit of skill. By a little bit of skill, I mean I have not tried this before and have no idea if it's gonna work. I saw Mike do it once in a similar recipe in another video, but the basic concept is you kind of put the plate on top. Oh yeah. And then slip it back on, and it worked. Yes, come on, you got it. Wow, I did it. All right, look, we did it. So I flipped it on this side because this side, it just looks a little prettier. I just wanted to cook the top for a few minutes, and I don't want to cut into this yet. It's still cooking. If you can feel it, which I can feel it for us, you can feel it, you can get a sense that it's actually still a little bit undercooked in there, and that will steam and continue cooking, but I didn't want to overcook it. So let it cool a little bit, and then we can cut into it. Usually they serve it on the street like, it's like in pizza slices. Nice big thick wedges. Oh yeah, just how I wanted it. Well, holy freaking gloriousness. So I finished this potato tortilla. Now the last thing I need to do is of course add some ketchup. Just kidding. I know people would be very upset if I did that. I saw Mike's cheesesteak video. People were upset that he had ketchup, and being in Spain, that would be a whole nother level of insult. Although if you want to add ketchup, I don't care what you do. But I think one of the key things that I have learned from Spain and eating food is that sauce isn't really a big thing. Some dishes, but for the most part, the food is just so good you don't need sauce. And even though a lot of Brothers Green is built on sauce and making things taste better, if you cook it right the first time, you might not even need it. Wow, it's really nice. In Spain, food is very fresh. My wife and I have been going to the market probably like 2 or 3 times a day. It's just part of the culture, like going, kind of getting what you need versus like in America where it's all about just packing our fridge with all kinds of stuff and then having that throughout the week. And it just makes it more like, what am I inspired today? What looks good? What looks fresh? I'm gonna get some good product and I'm gonna go for it. Now, because the produce is so good in Spain, I'm not trying to turn you off. For me, cooking is about being inclusive. And I actually recently did a podcast, you can click below if you wanna check out, where I took the listeners on like an auditory edible journey. I think it's never been done before, like explaining this amazing eating experience I had one night. So if you wanna listen to that and kind of see how that feels, go check it out. The thing about Spain is the ingredients are fresh. A lot of the dishes are extremely simple, but for me, it's not about just sharing with you guys exactly what I have in Spain. It's about inspiring you and including you in this journey so that you might learn something new. Because to me, like wherever you live, look around, what grows fresh where you live? What do you have good access to? What is affordable? You know, what is inspiring to you? And learn how to make it in really simple ways that's satisfying, and life will just keep getting better and better and better. So in Spain, you'll see olives growing like everywhere because olive oil is actually the #1 thing they produce. And it's actually, they make 50% of olive oil in the world. So sorry, Italy, but Spain actually makes the most olive oil in the world, and it's amazing, and it's affordable, and it's everywhere. And I had this crazy idea to see if I could make my own homemade olive oil without any special contraptions. And it kind of worked. We were staying in Granada, which is one of the coolest, hippest, most beautiful cities I've ever been to. We were on this hike one day and we found these olive trees, and I started picking the olives and I noticed that they were nice and tender. So I had this idea to see if I could make olive oil. And what I did was I got a bunch of olives, and when they're green, that's usually when they're brine, you know, and like sort of pickled, like you would get like in a jar to eat. But when they get darker and they get like black, that's actually when you make olive oil. So I picked all these really soft olives, I washed them off, I squeezed them all together and squeezed out the pit. I've been working on these olives for a while now, and I basically realized the easiest way, even though it's super messy and I got my shirt off, is to squeeze, kind of mash all the olives up, and then like once they get soft, you can just pop the pit out. And then immersion blended them until they were a bit of a paste. I put that paste into just a pan on kind of like medium low, just with nothing in it, and just mixed that around, and I just kind of cooked it for like 10 or 15 minutes or so, just on low, kind of stirring it around. After that, I knew I had to strain it out and try to get the olive oil to actually drip from the olives. Now, I didn't have any sort of like cheesecloth, and I was feeling kind of discouraged. I tried some paper towel, it didn't work, it exploded through. And then I had this crazy idea, and this is gonna sound weird. So I think I found something that will work to strain out the olive oil. And before you freak out, this is for the name of science and research only. I would not suggest ever using what I'm about to use. It's just that I'm kind of stuck here in Spain. I don't have the right equipment to strain out the olives. So I just cleaned this fresh pair of underwear here, and the underwear, I know, it has some holes in it, and I was getting ready to throw it out. So I just want to see if I can at least strain the olive. I'm not going to be feeding this to people. I just want to see if it's possible to make olive oil at home without all the crazy machinery. Here goes something. I know how this looks not very good for multiple. That's ridiculous. What have I done? Oh wow, that's ridiculous. It's working. Oh my gosh. This looks terrible, I know. Oh my god, I can't believe it. There is going to be some olive residue that's going to come through, and that's okay. It should separate and I'll be able to spoon it off. A little bit of olives coming through, but it's also separating with the olive oil. Folks, cannot believe it. I just made pure olive oil. All I have to do is just kind of pour that off. Look at all that olive oil. And it's not a lot considering, but to make it at home with my underwear, pretty good. You didn't really think I wasn't gonna try it. Look at that, fresh olive oil. Ooh. Wow, that is intense flavor. Ooh. Whoa. Ooh. Wow. That's the strongest. It's like drinking whiskey. It's like whiskey oil. Look at that. Babe, I made it. It's on the table. I spilled 2 out of 6 drops on the table. So probably one of the most popular and simplest tapas of all is just like some sort of meat and cheese plate. And there's different types of meats and cheese you can get, but the #1 thing that they have in Spain is jamon. So this is a very good quality jamon. There's different grades, and the top quality is the jamon ibérico, and it's de cebo, and that basically means it's fed an entire acorn diet. What's interesting about this is a little bit of acquired taste because it's like a little funky. It's almost got like a cheesiness to it. But it's everywhere, and jamon is amazing. So oftentimes when people get tapas, they might just get a plate of cured meats, some cheeses. Manchego cheese is like the most popular cheese in all of Spain, some olives, and my wife and I are making a lot of tapas platters at night, and we just kind of use whatever we have, and we love adding fresh vegetables. I've fallen in love with red pepper. I used to not like raw red peppers, but here they're so good. Bread, always. It costs you like 50 cents to $1 for a big one. Get a couple cured meats, some good olives, some veggies, some cheese, maybe like a little spread, and just make these big plates. And then what's amazing is you're just literally taking little like pieces of bread and building these little bites. You know, I might have this with a little cucumber, and every bite is a different taste. You know, you might do some cheese next time or some olives or whatever, and every bite gives you this different experience. And you feel like you're eating so much. Everything is so simple and fresh, but it's so satisfying. The most exciting time without a doubt to eat in Spain is dinner. And it took us a while to adjust to this, and we're still not fully adjusted, but in Spain, you know, they have their siesta and they kind of sleep or they nap and they go back to work from like 5 to 8, 8:30. And people don't start eating dinner usually till around 9 o'clock. And dinner isn't like a standard sit-down meal, it's all about the tapas. So if you don't know what tapas are, they're basically small bites of things, and tapas don't refer to any one specific thing, but what they tend to do in Spain is they'll go from place to place, bar to bar, restaurant to restaurant, they'll get a drink, they'll get a plate, you know, maybe some fried fish, maybe they'll have some olives, maybe they'll have some cured meats and cheese and jamon, or like some sort of like little stews, and they just kind of share these little plates of food, and then they go to the next place to switch the atmosphere up, and then they continue the night drinking, eating, and it goes on for hours. So we wanted to get to understand tapas a bit better because they are so special in Spain. So I signed my wife and I up for this private tour to learn about tapas. Our tour guide Adrian, who's actually French, fell in love with Granada about 6 years ago and decided to move to Spain full time, and now he leads these tours with this awesome tour group. You order a drink and you can get free tapas, right? That's a big thing.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I was used to spend like €7 for a beer in France, and I arrived here like, okay, give me €2 and you're gonna have your beer and free food. All right.
That's pretty amazing.
I'm staying.
Where are we going next?
We're gonna eat some really good fish in a really good bar. Just like always, we're gonna be the only foreigners, and it's really local. And because we're having a good time, we are a little bit late, so we're gonna have to squeeze at the bar the Spanish way. That's the way it is.
Let's do it.
If you want to be local, we're gonna do just like the local. So
let's do it. Local. Apparently they fry the fish in chupi flour. It keeps it really light, really good olive oil. It shouldn't be too greasy. If you walk into a place and there's like an intense smell, it's no good. But it's very clean in here. So speaking of Spain, especially down south, they're very close to the sea, so seafood is a huge thing. But what's interesting about the fresh seafood here is when they fry it, because it's so good, usually I'm used to like lemon juice or tartar sauce or something with my seafood. But no, it's just, you just eat that straight up and you don't even feel like you need anything because they just do it right. So one thing that I saw people eating all over the place, and I felt a little bit envious, so I wanted to make it myself, and I actually did not buy it out, was shrimp, or as they may say, langostino here. It's like the shrimp with the head on. So I bought a bunch of it, and I wanted to do a really simple recipe that you guys could appreciate. To make this dish, it could not be simpler. Really good, fresh shrimp. They call them langostino here. They got the heads on. You obviously don't need the heads on. You can peel them and do the whole thing, but the fun part is that when you cook it, you get to actually get more flavor with the head and you can suck out the juices. And I fried the garlic in the olive oil just to kind of infuse the flavor without burning the garlic, of course. And then I just tossed the shrimp right in with some salt and just cook them until they turn red. Basically, right when they turn red, they're done. They tell you, they're like, hey buddy, we're done, we're done. So what do you guys think? Not too shabby, eh? Took me like 5 minutes to cook. And oh wow, peel the skin off. And the way to eat these is like, you want to get messy with it. You basically want to peel the skin with your fingers, but your fingers are going to pick up all the olive oil and garlic. So when you're eating it, it all kind of like blends together, almost like making a sauce in your hand. And they're so fresh, you don't need much. Just a little head. There's like a, wow, that's like straight seafood in there. Here you go, look at that. So Adrian took us around to a bunch of really cool bars and just like getting a sense of different things. We get to try a bunch of different foods and learn a bit about the history, and it was so enlightening and inspiring. So one of the tapas we had is called Salmorejo, and it's actually a very popular dish. It was invented in Cordoba, and it's kind of like a gazpacho, except they use bread to thicken it up. So I thought I'd make it for you guys because it was a really fascinating dish that's super simple to make, pretty much all raw, and just taste amazing. So the ingredients you want to have are some soaked bread. Day-old bread is even better. Some tomatoes, some garlic, a little sherry vinegar, some lemon juice, you know, some good olive oil, and some salt. And then you can have some toppings, like I had little bits of jamon and some pumpkin seeds. And what you do is you kind of strain out the bread that's been soaked and squeeze that up, but reserve the water in case you need it. Put it in a blender with some tomatoes, garlic, lemon juice, olive oil, sherry vinegar, salt, and just blend that up. And keep blending it until it gets nice and fine and smooth. All right, pour it in. I'm gonna just do a little one, little tapa style. You could obviously do a whole bowl to yourself, but this is like a nice little thing to eat. It's very refreshing. And then, just to finish it, a little bit of jamon in there, and a little bit of my pepitas, these pumpkin seeds. As always in Spain, a little olive oil on top, just like that. You got your little zing bazoom. So you can eat it as a little soup, you can have it as a whole bowl, as a sauce. So the bread in there makes it really creamy. Jamon's salty, garlic has the spice, it kind of What's nice about this is it's great, like refreshing hot summer day, but it's also very hearty for like a cold, kind of wintry. So another popular dish, and one I wanted to make for my wife who is vegan, is spinach and chickpea stew. And this is a great thing you might get like as a little thing of tapas, and it might be served over rice. So this is where the sort of Northern African influence comes into play from the Moors. You know, of course, Morocco is so close to Spain. You can actually take a ferry over there from certain points in Spain. But it's really delicious and has more spiciness. A lot of Spanish dishes do not have much spice in them. So I got some spinach, chickpeas, cumin, smoked paprika, a little bit of cayenne powder. You could have some lemon juice if you wanted, garlic and onions. And I basically just cook the onions for a little while until they get like translucent in olive oil. Then I throw in some garlic, mix that around, cook that for a bit. I throw in the spices, just like a teaspoon, whatever feels right, like teaspoon to start of each, maybe a little bit less of the cayenne. Kind of mix that all together. You're starting to toast the spices a bit. Then I throw in a can of tomatoes, and I'm just cooking that down, making basically like a tomato sauce, but it's got a lot of spiciness and just like this beautiful flavor. Add some lemon in there and just mix that around for a while, and cooking out most of the moisture. Once the moisture is mostly out, you throw in already cooked spinach, and of course if you have raw spinach, you can throw that in, wilt it down, and some already cooked chickpeas. Mix that together, and at that point you're just tasting it. And you're tasting it and just getting a sense of like, does it need, you know, a little more spice or whatever, and create your balance. And if you want, once that's done, you can put it on little pieces of bread or just eat it straight up over some rice or something. Wow, holy shit. Can you see that back there? Holy shit. That's crazy. Give this thing a little dip. This is a great dish. Totally vegetarian, vegan. And just like has so much flavor, so satisfying. Thank you guys so much for joining me in España. Hope you're inspired to try some new foods. The way people eat in Spain is so unique and different, but you can take away a lot from their cuisine. Simplicity, amazing ingredients, keeping things fresh, having fun, being about the social experience, and using what's around you. They're very resourceful, they don't waste food. So will I ever see you again? Oh, will I ever see you again? Oh, will I ever see you again? Oh, will I ever see you again?